Moving on to movie news number 3. You may have heard of a movie back from 1982, which was a remake of a film from the 1950s called The Thing. They made another reboot in 2011 starring Mary Elizabeth Winstead of The Thing. And now for a fourth time's the charm, you guys, they're doing another reboot or reboot of The Thing. This time they're actually getting John Carpenter himself involved. This news is coming to us from Variety. Blumhouse? Do you know how... It is Blumhouse. Blumhouse, Jason Blum, I guess, is teaming up with John Carpenter himself, and they're currently in pre-production for a reboot of The Thing. There are no details about this right now. The only reason we do know about it is John Carpenter was at a Q&A session previously about a different film that he was working on, I believe Halloween Kills. Someone asked if he's working on any other projects. One in particular, John Carpenter said, I don't know about that, but we have talked about, I think he, referring to Jason Blum, I think he's going to be working on The Thing, rebooting The Thing. I'm involved with that maybe down the road. So that comes right out of John Carpenter's mouth himself. Is this a good idea? Is this a bad idea? I don't know. There's a lot of ideas to swirl around in this realm. I don't particularly think that there's a need or a desire, or I don't think anyone needs to have another Thing remake. We've had one already. It was okay. Granted, it didn't have John Carpenter involved with it, but then again, John Carpenter wasn't involved in the original Thing film either. Natalie, do you have a different take on this, or are you in agreement that we don't need another Thing film?
We don't need another Thing. We've had too many things as it is. No, I do disagree. I think that this is the time. John Carpenter, by the way, like I was referencing him a little bit earlier with the Halloween series. Halloween was kind of the thing, and I'm talking about 1976. I believe it came out in 1975.
82.
That was really
John Carpenter's The Thing.
No, you're talking about The Thing. I'm talking about
Halloween.
Yeah, no, I'm talking
sorry.
about Halloween.
Yeah. Sorry, my apologies.
So, maybe it was 78. So the point is, after that movie, and also a little Easter egg, if you go back and watch the original Halloween, you'll see that the 50s Thing makes an appearance. It's what the kids are watching in the house on Halloween night. That kind of propelled him to stardom, and it was that movie that kind of propelled him to make The Thing. A lot of people agree that movie is like the definitive Thing, if you will. Like that's the one that everyone thinks about, is like, this is the best that you can get with this particular genre. I think it's really great. I remember seeing it as a kid. I did see the 2011 one, and yeah, it obviously lacked a lot of the grittiness. It really, really holds up to the old one. But with that being said, John Carpenter's involvement in Halloween, the 2018 version, that ended up, at first I was like, ugh, eye roll, really? You're going to just make a sequel to the first one without any kind of knowledge of any of the others? This is so weird. But it ended up being a really stand-up film. And I think that the same thing could be said with The Thing. Every once in a while, it makes sense to reboot something or reintroduce things to a new generation. And as long as you have that original intent in mind, I'd be down to see it.
Interesting take. I'm definitely of the opinion that there are certain films that have reached, in a sense, critical mass. I think like Back to the Future, Lord of the Rings, those are two examples that I always go back to that well and draw from. Back to the Future as a trilogy is a perfect trilogy. Even as each individual film, I feel that they are perfect films. Same thing with Lord of the Rings. I don't feel that there's anything that you can add or change that would make it better. If you were to remake Lord of the Rings, okay, but what? Like, you're only going to do it if you're going to improve upon it. So CGI has improved dramatically since 1982. CGI has even improved dramatically since 2011 with the last reboot of the Thing. But I don't know. I don't know if CGI is a good enough reason to reboot. If they're just going to remake the same thing, let me make this delineation. If you're going to reboot, I feel I would be more behind that because it implies that the story can have very sincere changes to it, as opposed to a remake, which is just the same exact story presented the same way, with very small little changes. Do you have a different take on this, Natalie?
Yeah, no, that's a great point. That's part of the reason why I loved Halloween so much, is because it was a reboot, and I feel like the word is reframing. It reframed this tired, done a million times, okay, there's a bad guy chasing a babysitter and this is terrible, and really made it about something very relevant, which was, what is the aftermath of a woman in this specific case surviving a random act of violence. And, sadly, albeit the pandemic is something that's kind of kept things quieter, but a random act of violence that would happen almost all the time. And I think it's interesting to take that idea and apply it to the slasher genre. Same thing with The Thing. If they're going to reboot it, if they're going to reframe it into something more interesting, I feel like it's worth a shot. It kind of reminds me of, do you remember the George Romero Dawn of the Dead of 1970s versus...
I'm aware of them. I never watched them.
Yeah.
I mean, I saw the original Night of the Living Dead, but I never watched. Horror has never been like a genre that I'm intrigued by it. I'm very interested by it.
Yeah.
But horror is one of those things that just scares me to death. So I can't actually sit down and watch the films.
But I love it. One of the things I love about that message between, I guess The Night of the Living Dead was a good kind of send off allegory about racism.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
Dawn of the Dead was
unintentional. A lot of people don't realize that it was just kind of an accident, that it was a happy accident.
Yeah. And the fact that Dawn of the Dead in the 70s is set in a mall kind of speaks very highly to the consumerism that defined the 80s that was starting to really come to a head. You go back to 2004 when they remake Dawn of the Dead, it's more of a commentary about the violence of the world when it comes to terrorism and everything that had happened that was so important in that decade just a while ago. So I think that, yes, with the right creative mind, paying attention to how the story fits now, I think that it's worth watching.
Question is, guys, what do you think about the reboot or the remake? I mean, because they haven't been that specific as to which type of a version this is going to be. Are you looking forward to it? Do you think it's a bad idea? Do you think that they should find something else to invest their time, money, and creative talents into? Jump on down to the comment section below and let us know your thoughts. All right.